Government agencies, like all enterprises, are working hard to secure increasingly dynamic and highly distributed IT environments. For officials responsible for securing government agency IT systems and data, the job of defending today's dynamic perimeter has also become increasingly complex. I'm Wyatt Cash with Scoop News Group, and here to talk about how government agencies are keeping up with those challenges is Robert Wood, CISO and Director of the Information Security and Privacy Group at the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Robert, thank you so much for joining us. And let me start by asking, how is CMS's evolution towards a multi-cloud network environment shifting your view about the role of firewalls and perimeter defense?
Sure. Well, happy to be here. Thank you for having me. So this whole change to me really represents more of a shift away from traditional infrastructure towards everything being software dominated in some way, shape, or form. And when, one of the big benefits of that being not just you can turn things on and turn things off quickly, but that you can capture configuration in code. You can turn more things into an as code state. Compliance is code, configuration is code, and infrastructure is code, and all of that stuff. And when something is code, it can be tested and verified and assessed as such. And that it's not only driving efficiencies in the utilization and consumption of those things, firewalls, infrastructure resources, etc., but also all the processes, especially in the federal government space where we've got FISMA and all of these other compliance and regulatory requirements to assess and verify and authorize those things as they stand. So that to me is like one of the most exciting things about all of this, and how at least how my brain sort of orients to it.
Well, we certainly seem to be in a new age of capability with code that way. That's interesting. But another question I have is, how is the increasing volume of traffic and the need to encrypt and decrypt traffic also reshaping your view of what modern firewalls need to accomplish so that employees can still get their work done efficiently?
Well, I don't know that it necessarily means that we have to just do things the same way that we always did with, like having these sort of choke points for traffic coming in. Traffic comes into an environment, gets decrypted for analysis, re-encrypted, and sent off to its destination. So there's a lot of ways that we can do monitoring in this day and age. And one of the exciting things about all of these new technologies that are coming out, data lakes and every solution that we're consuming having an API so we can consume data out of more parts of our infrastructures, instead of focusing our monitoring all like right in that critical path of traffic as it's passing through. We can get monitoring from all over the place, and we can synthesize that, and we can draw more accurate and high value insights into what's really going on. And so I think what this change is really driving is a change in the way that we go about detecting and responding to issues in our environment. So the traffic isn't necessarily causing, if we were to do things the old way, I think the traffic and all of that would put tremendous strain on how we do what we do. But the fact that we're able to change how we're doing things, it's not necessarily a problem. I mean, there's other complexities, of course, that come into that. You have to actually have the resources to interface with all these different endpoints and have places to put the data, and you have to, you're shifting into more of a data-centric and engineering-centric workforce. But I think that's the way of the future for the security industry, and it's where we need to go anyway. So it's a good change.
Absolutely. Well, where are you seeing your infrastructure and security modernization efforts actually paying off with a stronger or more dynamic perimeter?
In a lot of ways. So a couple of big ones is like us embracing this as a security team directly, we are more nimble, which makes us able to leverage that and pass along the dividends or the benefits of that to those we are serving across the enterprise. But bigger than that, so like as CMS, the enterprise, begins to adopt more of these technologies, they are finding efficiencies in their time to market, their time to production, which to me, so I come from a startup product engineering world. This is my first federal role, so that's just kind of how my brain works, is time to market and iteration speed and developer throughput and all of those velocity metrics, basically, or agility metrics, and the speed at which people are able to get things into production, not just the actual engineering of those things. So there's the procurement of the resources, the building of the thing, the assessment of it, and the authorization of it. We're seeing the benefits of these technologies manifest in all of these different stages. And so you get these stackable efficiency gains across the life cycle. And when you accumulate all of that, you get a much more efficient development process end to end. And that's really exciting, because the faster we can get to market, it's not just money saved, it's mission capability getting in the hands of those who need it faster. And so you take an agency like CMS, who's dealing with things and contributing to the response against COVID-19 and the opioid epidemic and all these other big things happening in healthcare. Speed cannot be undervalued. And so we need to be faster. And this is one of those things that's enabling that speed.
Great point. And then lastly, I'd be remiss in not asking, so how are the government's zero trust objectives, particularly around network environments, how is that reshaping your view and your agency's top security priorities for the coming year or so?
Yeah, so it's hard to weigh, for me anyways, the importance of the network elements of a zero trust architecture to, let's say, endpoints or users or data or applications. I think it's very context dependent. So in a big sprawling enterprise like we have, it might make more sense to focus your investment around zero trust on data, for example, or in another place, it might make more sense to focus on networks. And so one of the ways that we are thinking about zero trust architectures in particular is trying to find the largest points of intersection of centralized technology, where we have as many systems and users using a piece of centralized technology as possible, and basically trying to build in elements of that zero trust architecture into the centralized tech, so that way we can invest once and benefit in many places. Because in reality, we have over 200 FISMA systems. We've got all the centers, all the offices that make up the enterprise. And if we were to try to just tell everyone, go implement a zero trust architecture, and we forego centralized IT and core services where we can do this stuff in one place and see the fruits of that labor be reaped in a lot of different places, then what would end up happening is we'd have a lot of different implementation. Let's say you have $10 million to invest, you have to split it up into $500,000 segments, and you're only going to get a tiny little bit of benefit, and it's all going to be unique and different, and nothing's going to be cohesive and work together. And so it would be an absolute mess. And so our approach is very much focused on those areas of consistent either patterns or technology, and network certainly plays into that, because in some way everyone is on the CMS network in some capacity, or large chunks of the enterprise are using the cloud infrastructure, centrally managed cloud infrastructure. And so there's definitely elements there that we're strongly considering, but broadly speaking, that's how we're approaching the zero trust. Our zero trust strategy.
Well, it's certainly a lot to kind of integrate into a broader security set of responsibilities, I'm sure. So, well, Robert Wood, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to share your perspective on what you're seeing at the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, and just the evolution of this increasingly dynamic perimeter that everyone's talking about. So thank you for joining us.
You are welcome, sir.